Okay, guys, this is IXL trigonometric ratios, find an angle measure. Let's see what we are going to do here. I'm going to go ahead and just grab my blue pen because I know I'm going to be using that, or my black pen, I should say. Let's start by reading. It says find the measure of angle V. Okay, so we're using trigonometry to find an angle measure. First thing we want to do here is we want to mark up this figure. So I'm going to circle the reference angle. I'm going to highlight the two sides that have numbers on them. So the 12 square root of 2 and the 6 square root of 2. And then I'm going to come back over and I'm going to label the hypotenuse, the opposite side relative to the reference angle, and the adjacent side relative to the reference angle. Okay? So the hypotenuse is going to be right here. It's across from the 90-degree angle. So this is our 90-degree angle. We look across to the other side of the triangle, and this is the hypotenuse. I'm going to mark that with an H. Okay, this side here, I'm going to do the opposite side now. I'm going to go back to my reference angle, and I'm going to look across. This side here is my opposite side. We'll mark that with an O. And then this side here, there's nothing marked on it, so I don't know that we need to necessarily write this, but since we do mark all the sides normally, we'll mark it for this one as well. This is the adjacent side. So we mark an A right there. The adjacent side, if you go to the reference angle, it's right next to the reference angle. But remember, the hypotenuse is right next to the reference angle also. That's why we do the hypotenuse first. The way you tell the difference is the hypotenuse is also across from the 90-degree angle. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at our two highlighted sides, and we're going to ask ourselves, what letters do we see? We see O and H. Remember, we have our mnemonic device. I'll put it up here on the slide, or on our page. Our mnemonic device is so, ka, toa. It's just like a word that we made up to help us remember the different trig ratios. So, ka, toa. And we're going to look at so, ka, toa. These are really three little words that we made up. They're really three different parts. And we're looking for the one that has an O and an A. The only part of so, ka, toa that has an O and an A is so. The ka doesn't have both the O and the A, and the toa doesn't have both the O and the A. So then we go back to so, and we say, what does so represent? So means sine equals O over H. That's how we read that. Okay. Now, we're looking to find the angle. We don't know the angle, so we can't say sine of 60 or sine of 30 or sine of 23. We're going to say sine of x. This is our x in this case. This is the angle that we're trying to find. So we're going to say sine of x equals, and then what is O and what is H? We have real numbers. O is 6 square root of 2. And H is 12 square root of 2. Okay, let's go over to our Desmos calculator, and this is how we're going to put this in. We are going to use something called an inverse sine function, and it looks like this. The inverse trig functions are like the trig function itself, so sine, cosine, or tangent, with a little -1 next to it. This is what we're going to use. We're going to do sine of -1, sorry, not sine of -1, inverse sine of 6 square root of 2 over 12 square root of 2. And by the way, I'm noticing that 6 square root of 2 over 12 square root of 2 does simplify to 1/2. So if you guys were noticing that as well, you could definitely use 1/2 right here. But I'm going to pretend like I didn't notice that, because you don't necessarily need to notice it. We can use the numbers as they are given. Okay, so we want to do inverse sine of 6 square root of 2 over 12 square root of 2. Let's go do it. Over here on our Desmos calculator, we are going to look for inverse sine. I'm not seeing it anywhere here, but if you click on this function key Here it is, inverse sine. Okay, and then what is our ratio again? 6 square root of 2 over 12 square root of 2. So we can go back over to the main menu, click on the fraction tool right here, and go ahead and put that in. So 6 square root of 2, and then click to the bottom, 12 square root of 2, and look at that. This is one of the cool things about this one, is that we are going to get really nice answers for the most part. 30, a nice whole number. And I feel super confident in that. Let's go back and look at the picture. It looks like a 30-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, and we will hit submit. And really, these problems don't get much different than this. I'll do one more with you guys, but it's going to be the same process. Okay, so this one says find the measure of angle R. That's our reference angle. Let's go highlight the sides that have numbers. Let's go mark up our figure. Start with hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is across from the 90-degree angle. Then go to opposite next. For opposite, we go to the reference angle and look across. And then adjacent. For adjacent, we go back to the reference angle and we look right next to it. Okay, let's put SOHCAHTOA up on the board here. So SOHCAHTOA. So it's 3 little made-up words that are going to help us remember our trig functions. Okay, so we've got our highlighted sides have A and H. That's got to be CA. CA, the letter C stands for cosine. So CA means cosine equals A over H. Okay, and remember, it's not cosine of a number, it's cosine of X. We don't know what the angle is. So this is cosine of X equals A over H. What's A? A is square root of 29. Don't be worried about these square roots. The calculator is going to handle all this. H, square root of 58. How do we put this into the calculator? We're not doing cosine of the square root of 29 over the square root of 58. That's not what we have. We have cosine of X. So to figure out what X is, we have to use the inverse cosine. Inverse cosine function, which looks like that, cosine with a -1, okay? So it'll be inverse cosine of the square root of 29 over the square root of 58. Just like that. Let's go do it. Back over to the calculator. Let's clear it out. Let's go find inverse cosine. Remember, it's not here. We have to go to function and then inverse cosine, and then back out to main so we can fill in our fraction. Click on the fraction tool, and our numerator is square root of 29. So that's square root of 29. And then our denominator is square root of 58. Square root 58. Ooh, look at that. Another great answer. We got another nice whole number, 45. Okay, let's come back over. Ooh, and that looks like a 45, 45, 90 triangle. I think that definitely seems like it could be the correct answer. I'm going to go ahead and submit. All right, guys, that's pretty much how it goes. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions.